Well, ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you know it? The elbows up crowd in Canada is already caving. Carney now is saying that he wants to work with Donald Trump on Donald Trump's Golden Dome missile defense system that's expected to cost potentially hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't think it's going to cost as much as some people say, to where they say, well, for 2 decades, it's probably going to be around $1 trillion because of the total area you have to cover in terms of the missile defense. I do think it is going to cost possibly over the next 20 years, maybe around 150, $200 billion. There's an upfront $25 billion investment in Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, the one big, beautiful bill that is right now working. I think they're onto the Senate. It just got passed by the House by a single vote. And now Carney is saying, well, this has been something we've talked about for a while. We want in on this. What are the Canadians going to pay? Are they going to give us something for this? I mean, this just goes to show you how Canada is just like an extension of the United States in terms of us giving them support and protection. I guess they would potentially pay for this, but I do understand that the Canadians are saying, well, this is something that's been discussed. It's not just a Trump thing. Trump is the one to really implement it. Like, Trump has done so many things that are just so obvious, including getting rid of the penny. Now we've got this with the Golden Dome. People are complaining about this. They're saying, why are we doing it? There's no point. Nobody's going to attack us with missiles. Well, think about it. To me, this makes perfect sense when you're talking about the Golden Dome. Now, you can say, well, it costs too much. $25 billion with our military budget, it makes sense. When people say or give hypothetical scenarios about the United States being involved in a military conflict, the number one thing, it's always missiles, nuclear bombs, something hitting one of our major cities and killing a bunch of civilians. That's it. There's no land invasion across the Atlantic. There's no land invasion onto Alaska by Russia. None of that's going to happen. It's ridiculous. The only way we're susceptible to a foreign adversary, specifically China, you could also say Russia, would be through ballistic missiles, nuclear strikes, things like that. So why would we not secure ourselves, considering we do have the biggest military in the world by far? Our military budget's going to be $1 trillion. You take the 8 or 9 next military budgets for the next 8 or 9 countries, they don't equate to $1 trillion. It's a ridiculous military budget. Why would we not guard ourselves extensively against the number one thing that everyone talks about in hypothetical scenarios hitting us and actually causing us harm? There's no land invasion we're going to be facing. The only way it would happen, it's like through, I mean, even through Canada, based off of Canada's position with how cold it is up there, it's extremely unlikely. And there's another reason why Canada would want this. You would say, well, does it really make sense for them to be? I mean, I don't know what they would give for this. A few $billion, you would think. Their military budget's only $30 billion. So it's like, I don't know how much they can. It is crazy to think about. The United States in this project is investing $25 billion. Canada's total military budget per year is $30 billion. So they're in the U.S. upfront first investment, which, by the way, again, it's going to cost a lot more. It's not going to cost $1 trillion. Israel has their Iron Dome. They're a lot smaller, so it's easier for them, as opposed to the United States that's got to cover a lot more area. Now, Israel's certainly in a much more precarious position than the United States geographically, but just in terms of the total area we have to cover, that's why it's going to cost a lot to install this. But I would say 150, $160 billion over, maybe more. I mean, this is just an estimate. I know there's been other predictions, but it's something around there over 20 years. But the reason this would be good for Canada is, number one, this is just how it is with the Canadians. They want to be with the United States when it comes to military. They want to have this protection in all aspects. And also, it's a significant amount, around 90% of their population is extremely south. And so when you talk about the Torontos and the Montreals and the higher densely populated areas, they're all within an area in southern Canada. So they could be susceptible to missile strikes. And this is just that they want protection. This is something that's been talked about. It makes the most sense for the United States and Canada to do this. But what is Canada really going to be paying? Are they going to pay a few billion dollars? Is there going to be some other investment? Could we be talking about maybe a territorial exchange where the United States gets some territory within Canada in exchange for this defense system? I mean, this is just another aspect that illustrates the Canadians kind of latching on to the United States And I understand the power dynamics based off of how strong or not strong Canada is. They would be interested in something like this. And then you've also got the people saying, well, what about Carney saying that the reputation and the relationship with America had been irreputably damaged? And honestly, you would think Carney would have a point, because Donald Trump has said multiple times he wants to annex the country. That means it ceased to exist and it becomes part of the United States. But we're so much more powerful than Canada, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Whatever Trump says, they have to latch onto us. And so when you can see, this is what I tweeted out. Canada wants to be a part of the Trump Golden Dome protection defense system. Is expected to cost hundreds of billions. They should give up their territories for it. What I meant by that, the territories meaning Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Yukon. I mean, I don't think they would, because they're probably only going to be contributing a few $1 billion maybe. But even that, it's like if their military budget's only $30 billion, I'm not sure how much. We could give them the free protection if they gave up some territory, because we want control of the Arctic, and those territories are important. I wonder if Trump would try something like that. I don't think it would work, but it just goes to show you the amount of reliance that that Canada has on us. And you can see this is a nice little rendering right here. But also, guys, make sure you follow me on X. I'll give a shout out to that. But another thing I wanted to talk about when it came to Canada is this New York Times recent article. Alberta stands apart in Canada. Now it plans a long shot bid to secede. And I would agree it is a long shot bid. There's no doubt about it. And it already seems like Danielle Smith, the premier, is trying to leverage the idea of secession with maybe getting a better situation for Albertans in terms of the equalization aspect, where they have to give up so much of their natural resources in terms of money to the eastern provinces, as well as the carbon emissions tax, the carbon tax. And so I can understand, the issue is I just don't think that in terms of Alberta separation, outside of there being a true catalyst, and maybe there will be. I mean, nobody really knows what Carney's going to do. The referendum is not going to be for at least another 5 or 6 months. But unless there's a crazy catalyst, if you're talking about, you see these polls, 35, 40, 45%. And by the way, this article, I've looked at it. It's a lot of the stuff I've already gone over. When talking about equalization, when talking about why they want to leave now, the other movements, the Quebec movement in the 90s. And so there's really nothing new about this article. It's just they finally started talking about it. There could be, and this is the reason I say that Trump should get involved, and I think eventually Trump will probably get involved, is because he seems to be very interested in territorial expansion. And I think Greenland is an option for Trump. It's a little bit more precarious in the fact that it's the 21st century when it comes to land expansion, but Trump could be interested in just Alberta because it would make more sense because of how conservative it is relative to the rest of Canada and the amount of natural resources that they do have. And also Trump could help, because the issue is if they had like 60 to 70% support, it would be fine. They don't have that support. Maybe they have 45 at the most, I would say. It's hard to say. It's anywhere from 30 to 45% support on separation, even less in terms of joining the United States. That can change if there's a formal offer from Trump to Albertans talking about how much better it's going to be in terms of less taxes and military protection. You would get the dome defense, the Golden Dome, of course. And so when you talk about things like that, I mean, this is Canada. They want to be a part of the United States in terms of all of this military protection. But then they say, oh, no, we don't want to join the United States. I can understand that. And I don't want Canada. And Trump really shouldn't want Canada either, just because of how liberal they are. But Alberta and the territories are a different situation, and then it becomes a West versus East thing, and that's what it kind of devolves into, to where, well, we would take all of Western Canada, including all the territories, because then we'd have Arctic control, but we want to leave Eastern Canada alone. I wonder what Trump is planning to do with this Golden Dome, the fact that Canada wants to be a part of it, and what is Canada going to have to pay for this? Because, listen, that's a lot of area to cover as well within Canada. I mean, you're talking about an extreme land area within North America that is, and you're not going to have to cover all of it because a lot of it is uninhabitable land, especially north of Yellowknife, north of Whitehorse, those areas. It's there's nobody there, but it's still a lot. And certainly when you talk about southern Canada, there would be an extensive network set up there to defend those areas with the Golden Dome missile defense system that is expected. Again, I would say you're talking about 150 $200 billion in total for the United States. If you include Canada, it's going to be more. But what is Canada giving to us if they want to be a part of this? We understand. This makes total sense to me. People are complaining about it. They're saying it's a waste of money. When you look at any potential hypothetical scenario involving the United States at war, it's always, oh, there's somebody's going to nuke us. That's the only thing they can do. Who's coming across the Atlantic? Who's coming across the Pacific? Who's coming in to Mexico to land in Mexico and then invade the United States? It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic, especially in the 21st century, where we're going away. More of it's drones and ballistic missiles, and that's kind of the warfare we're dealing with now. I'm not saying there's not ground fighting, certainly in Europe, because of the geographical position of all those countries. But when it comes to the United States, we've got Canada, we've got Mexico, neither of them are threats, and we've got two massive oceans. Oh, but maybe Russia will come in through Alaska. It's just not going to happen. Alaska's way too big anyways for them to even realistically have much success, and they'd have to put up so much military armament at the Bering Strait, we would see it coming. The only way we could be susceptible is through a missile attack, some type of nuke. And so Trump is like, this just makes total sense. We have the biggest military in the world. The only way we can really get hit is through the air. So why would we not develop an extensive defense system? That's hopefully the best in the world that we're gonna put in, and we're gonna make sure that for the most part we're able to protect everyone and people can live more peacefully without the idea, even if it gets to something to where, oh, because we know the fear mongering on X, anytime there's something that happens, everyone says it's going to be World War III. That's going to cause fear within American citizens. If you have this defense system, that can give them a little bit more security and safety. So it just makes the most sense to have this missile defense system, this Golden Dome. And they've talked about it for years now, but this administration, Trump, his second term, he is moving on doing these things that are just, to me, very obvious, like a missile defense system that's extensive, that's the best in the world. You know, I think a really good thing that could really help the relationship between the United States and Canada would be a Canadian endorsement of our annexation of Greenland. Think about it. We've got the Golden Dome. We could put missiles in Greenland. We could protect, I mean, we're going to protect all of Canada. Greenland is right next to Canada. We're going to, I mean, to me, that makes the most sense for Canadians. They would lose their minds, though, if that ended up happening, because the EU certainly does not want that. But it would be smart for Carney to come out and say, we endorse the United States annexing Greenland. Do the whole China narrative. China's going to take it over. That's the propaganda you have to use. But I mean, it is true that China has a relationship, and they've come out and they say they love Denmark and they love the sovereignty over Greenland, and they say we want to have a deal with Greenland, and Greenland is talking to China about potentially doing some type of extensive deal, and the Chinese are like, we can't wait to have more Arctic influence. And so if you're Canada, you should say, time out a second. Hold on. Let's endorse this annexation. We want the United States to control Greenland, not China. That's why Greenland's so important. Greenland is right next to Canada. Shouldn't Canada have more of a spine and say, all right, this is too close to us. We want daddy, the United States, to come in and take it over and control it. And just, you know what? We'll endorse it, and we want you to annex it as long as you give us this protection with the Golden Dome. And you might also have full control and full access. We'll give you that to the Northwest Passage as well. I mean, that seems like it's a fair trade. No, it's a fair trade. This is an expensive operation we have with this Golden Dome. You've got the EMP worries. You've got the hypersonic missile worries. I mean, there's a lot that comes into this. So we'll see what happens, but Carney and Trump working together, Carney kissing up to Trump, Carney taking off all the retaliatory tariffs. The elbows up crowd. This is what happens with the United States. I mean, it's the daddy US. But guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.